Entering tonight's game with the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, the Irish had lost the last 21 of 22 contests in ACC play on the road. With a little luck from the Wolfpack, now 22 of 23.
You are Locked On Wolfpack, your daily podcast on the NC State Wolfpack, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Wolfpack Nation? Welcome to this Wednesday evening post-game live. As you can see, it is only me for the time being. I'm still actively trying to get in contact with Kenton. Have not heard anything back for him, but I've left the door open for him. If he comes in, he comes in. If he doesn't, I'll pilot this solo for the time being. But what's up to everybody in here with us? It's time to get locked in with Locked On. Thanks for making Locked On Wolfpack your first listen each and every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. This Wednesday evening post-game live is brought to you by FanDuel. From big upsets to game-winning drives, the NFL playoffs are now here and made that much better with FanDuel. New customers can place just a $5 bet and get $200 back in bonus bets guaranteed. Yes, that's guaranteed, win or lose. Head on over to FanDuel.com in order to get started. As previously stated, what's up, everybody? It is Wednesday evening. This is your post-game live following a escape act by the NC State basketball team, 66-65 over the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. For whatever reason, every time we've played Notre Dame of recent, it is just complete chaos. All hell breaks loose. Somehow it takes a late second half comeback for the Wolfpack to show really any signs of life. And I can remember dating back to last season when DJ Burns won it with the dipsy-do there at the buzzer. Didn't need a buzzer beater to win it tonight, but Wolfpack did need a 10-point second half comeback. In my opinion, it should have never come to that. I thought we slacked off a little bit defensively in this game. Started off very solid defensively, but I don't know. You come to expect kind of a little bit of everything with this team right now, but a win's a win. This team badly needed to get a win. We discussed this on, what is it? I guess the Tuesday podcast. If you can't find a way to beat Notre Dame at home, nonetheless, it just only gets to be tougher sledding from here on out. We all know that we have the Dirty Foot Club in the Lenny coming up on Saturday. Plenty of work to be done before we even get into that, but you had to find a way to beat Notre Dame on your home court. We were 1-2 heading into this game in ACC play. 2 games, I won't even say the Wake Forest game was winnable because at no point did it ever feel winnable, but that road game against Virginia, you blew, I think it was a 14-point lead, inexcusable. And those are the types of games that you cannot afford. But because you did lose those games, it makes a game like tonight that much more important. And they got it done. So there is a lot to be said about kind of the all over the place-ness of this team right now. I'll shoot you straight here. Team stinks. And I hate to say it that way, but I think we're all coming to the very similar conclusion of this team is repetitively getting in their own way. And, it's reached the point of the season where you sound like a broken record. This team can't defend consistently. They can't score consistently. They can't rebound consistently. There's no consistent shooter on the team outside of Breon Pass that for some reason cannot find an increase in minutes. However, I think as we all saw tonight, this was the audition, as if there wasn't already plenty of minutes before. Breon Pass proved tonight why he needs more minutes moving forward. I think, and Kenton actually had this take a while back, I believe when we were on the road at Kansas. If Michael O'Connell, God bless him, we all love him, but if you can't get much out of Michael O'Connell, and perhaps the argument is, well, O'Connell's a little bit better of a floor general than Breon, perhaps he can play a little bit better defense than Breon, but if you can't get anything out of Michael offensively, how much worse could Breon be? And I think, late in the second half of this game, Keith did take a chance and roll the dice, so to speak, with Breon, and Breon came through. So, when you're looking at the second half of this game and you're looking at that individual performance from Breon Pass, yes, absolutely. You have to move forward with an increase in minutes for Breon Pass. And if that means a decrease in minutes for Michael O'Connell, I think you're at the point of the season where it becomes so be it. I mean, you can't afford to not have Breon's shooting ability. I think Breon gives you a burst of energy that is, very deeply needed at many points of a game as well. So shout out to Breon Pass. we all know what he means to this program, what this program very clearly means to him. Stuck around for 4 years, and he's making considerably large impacts late in these basketball games, and probably don't win this game without Breon. So that was an excellent showing for him. I want to move on to Ben Middlebrooks, another one. God love him. We all love some Benergy. Sometimes it's a little bit too much Benergy. And when you're repetitively missing, and I mean, I'm talking bunnies, like does not get any easier than this layup and you smoke it. Or sometimes it's a dunk. And this is me standing at 5'11", which some people are going to make fun of me because it doesn't sound like a real height. However, if you're 6'10" or you're 6'11", I've never been able to understand why you don't just dunk every single opportunity you get to dunk. Sure, maybe you're in traffic and you got to light off the glass, whatever. But for Ben Middlebrooks, just dunk it, bro. I know you can get up and dunk it. We can't afford missing repetitive layups, repetitive dunks, things that don't even require an absurd amount of touch to get the shot to fall. We can't take, additional games, especially not on this upcoming Saturday, Middlebrooks smoking these wide open opportunities for this team because we're already struggling to score. When you already struggle to score this much, you can't afford to punt the easy ones. So we love Middlebrooks. We love his energy. I think what was it? It was the Virginia game. He was out sick. You felt his absence in that one. In a game like this one, you feel what he can do when he's firing on all cylinders and he has that energy. And I also saw Keats had some post-game comments about Ben that he was frustrated with him picking up those early fouls. He was not able to contribute as much as he would have liked in the first half. He is that important. Although he looks like a bull in a china shop at all times, and sometimes I think he does get a little bit in his own head, he proves to be so valuable both offensively and defensively, and his ability to draw a foul. I would like him to hit the free throws at a higher rate, but I suppose beggars can't be choosers. Love what Ben Middlebrooks gives you in a game like this one. Another guy that probably don't win this game without him. So shout out to Ben Middlebrooks as well. Yeah, it really sucks not having Kent on here, doesn't it? Probably tired of already hearing me ramble on. Marcus Hill, he was our leading scorer tonight with 15, 6 of 12 from the floor. He hit 2 3-pointers, which is nowhere near his strong suit, but it was such a weird night. And this seems to be happening quite often recently when we play Notre Dame. Things that you never would expect to be a constant in this game seem to be a constant. You get Marcus Hill shooting 40% from 3, Jaden Taylor shooting 50% from 3. I'll touch more on him in just a second, but Marcus Hill's ability to knife through the paint so aggressively and with such force as a relatively smaller guy in amongst the trees proved to be a difference maker again. So shout out to, I got to stop doing shout outs. Marcus Hill played a great game. Dontrez Styles, I still think he's a little bit here and there at times. However, he was your leading rebounder tonight with 7. Brandon Hutley-Hatfield endured what looked like it'd be a shoulder stinger when he went up and was fouled. Saw a decrease in minutes because of that later on in that game. Unsure how much to read into that moving forward. Obviously, we have a huge game coming up, and we're going to need all hands on deck for that. But the moral of the story is this team needed to find a way to win this game, and they did. Was it pretty? No. But are any of our wins really pretty? Like ACC play or a non-conference, are they literally ever a pretty win? We all know the answer to that. This team had to find a way to win tonight, and they did. So that, to me, feels like the largest silver lining, so to speak. But there's just so many things that are still plaguing this team. There's no consistent shot. There's no offensive flow. Rebounding can be extremely hit or miss. We were out-rebounded again tonight, even in a win. Notre Dame had 34 rebounds to our 29. There's a lot of things that probably will not be able to be fixed the rest of the season. It's just you have to try and get the best out of what you got. And I think that probably speaks a lot, higher to the roster construction. I know that was a buzzword of last year's team before pure magic happened. This team, the way they are set up, though, you have to get max effort from every single player on the floor at all times. And especially the way that Keats likes to run and press, it just increases that demand for the absolute best out of every player. I'm not quite sure that this roster is constructed well enough to run your team in that fashion. But on that note, Jaden Taylor, and I had a tweet when NC State was really scuffling. I think they went down like 6 or 7 points to Notre Dame. And right before he had hit 1-3, I said, State needs Jaden Taylor to step up in a bad way for this team. And that's kind of an umbrella issue for this team so far. Him coming back and being a senior leader on this team and being one of the primary ball handlers, even though I disagree that that should be the case, you have to get a lot out of him. He needs to be one of the leaders on this team. And I tweeted that State really needs him to step up. I think he buried 3 threes in a row directly after that. And he really did step up in a massive way, both offensively and defensively. I thought the last defensive possession there with Burton hoisting up the final one at the buzzer, I thought Jaden Taylor did enough to alter that shot. And that's really why you have him on the floor so much. A lot gets made of Jaden Taylor and his ball handling and sometimes the ill-advised shots. A defensive possession like that one, that is why you see him on the floor that often. Because he has an innate ability to alter a shot, alter passing lanes, and be such a strict on-ball defender that no one else on this roster has. And that is why State desperately needs Jaden Taylor to keep having bigger games like this one. I think he had like 6 points this past Saturday against Wake Forest. Never going to cut it. It won't cut it then. It won't cut it this coming weekend. You need Jaden Taylor to score consistently double digits, consistently alter several shots, steals, blocks. You got to be like glue on their best shooter. Tonight it was Marcus Burton. So I thought Keats did an excellent job there defensively, scheming up there at the very end, trying to keep the ball out of the hands of Burton and Shrewsbury. And to wrap it up here, yes, a win's a win. It's a 1-point win. It was never pretty, but they don't have to be pretty. You just need to score more than the other team did. So NC State desperately needed to get this one. They did get this one, and onward we moved against the Dirty Foot Club coming up on Saturday. They're coming to our house, so be sure if you see any of them entering the arena, check those feet at the door. Check those feet at the door. We don't need any dirty shoes in our house. Coming up next, I don't know if Kenton's going to join me, so we might be trimming this one relatively short. I will get into Spike Souls, who has been tearing it up at the Navy All-American Bowl practices. I'll do more explaining on that in just a second. And perhaps I'll do some Q&A on here. Since it's just me, I'll sift through the comments. Anything else you guys want to know about, I'll do my best to shed my light on that. But that'll come after a quick word from our sponsors. Our first Wednesday evening sponsor, if I can get my ad read up, is Rocket Money. Oh, no, I already butchered this. There it is, Rocket Money. Did Rocket Money help you find any unwanted subscriptions you forgot about in 2024? Well, in 2025, they're back and better than ever. It's definitely happened to me. I've had a couple subscriptions that I didn't even know I was paying for, and Rocket Money made it easier than ever before to track them down. And it's like having a personal assistant for all of your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel all of your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even the goals that you're looking to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved over a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions. This saves members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. One more time for you, rocketmoney.com/lockedon. All right, middle portion of our Wednesday evening post-game live. Again, apologies. It's only me. You don't get any great one-liners. You don't get any 90s rap references because my bag only goes so deep. But NC State basketball picked up a huge win. We're now going to transition into football before I look through some of these comments and respond to those. Freshman Spike Souls, he's entering the program right now. He was an early signee. He's already actually been on campus, which is a huge positive when you're looking forward to the 2025 season. Getting those early bowl practices, I think I tweeted about this a couple weeks ago, but when we first saw Gus Ritchie was also in the mix. I don't know how recent that's become a trend, but I couldn't possibly love it any more than I do, because Spike Souls, not only is he, a stud recruit, he's a 4-star recruit out of the state of Kentucky. We're actually going to have his father on the podcast here very soon. He wanted to come on and discuss some of the recruitment and, how NC State was to get Spike away from the grasp of any teams within the state of Kentucky. He's a stud recruit. He's a 4-star center, very easily vying for day one snaps with NC State, which I think could be a massive talking point as this continues to go on. But the Navy All-American Bowl, which is the top 100 high school football players in the country, Spike was invited. He is participating in the practices during this week. The game itself is on the 11th. I think that's either Saturday or Sunday. That is Saturday. It is the Navy All-American Bowl. It will be televised. Again, top 100 high school players in the country. Spike has been absolutely tearing it up. They post their top performers from each day of bowl practices. Back-to-back days, Spike has been within the top 5 performers. He has been a beast. I saw a couple scouts basically watching his clips and say, I don't think there's been a single time that we've seen that a defender has gotten on the inside of Spike or busted up his pass coverage or run protection, any of that. He has been flawless. And so maybe I'll go ahead and give you a hump day hot take, seeing that it is here on Wednesday. I think Spike Souls will be NC State's day one starter at the center position in 2025. I think if he only continues to get better. Failed to mention, so his father, which is Isaac Souls Sr., he played in the NFL. So Spike, he comes from a lineage of a man that played at the very highest of levels of football, literally the NFL. So you already have that going on. You're a very highly rated recruit that NC State was able to go across state lines and pluck from the state of Kentucky. And now, on the highest of stages for high school players, he is turning heads. Scouts across the country and talent evaluators across the country are naming Spike as one of like the top 5 of the top 100 in these bowl practices. And that is unique because typically you're going to see a quarterback, a running back, a wide receiver, maybe a corner or a safety. Spike plays center. He's playing that well. He's practicing that well and doing reps that well that he is amongst the top 5, top 10 performers of all of these cats. Shout out to Spike Souls. We cannot wait to get you in real practices, not just bowl practices. And yeah, I'll stand by my take. I think he is going to be our day one starter at center for the Wolfpack in 2025. One more thing football related. I also saw that NC State is looking to be hosting an Alabama transfer linebacker, Sterling Dixon. I think I speak for many when I say, if this kid was good enough to play for Nick Saban, I'm putting all the blind faith I can possibly conjure and saying, I want him here. If he was good enough to play for Nick Saban / Kalen DeBoer at Alabama, he is more than good enough to play here at NC State. And because he's a linebacker also, NC State struggled at that position very, very badly in 2024. And Kent and I spent a lot of time kind of, indirectly hinting at that, sometimes very directly hinting at that. But that position has to get drastically better in 2025 for that defense to take a couple steps up. And when you're looking at a kid that not played at least much, was at Alabama, Sterling Dixon, you need him here. Pull out all the stops, whatever red carpet, however many red carpets you got, we have to bring this kid here. Have to. And I think that also rolls into, we'll talk more about this probably later in the week, but when you're looking at Sean Brown and you lost a couple safeties most recently to the transfer portal, I wouldn't be surprised if you're moving Sean Brown back to safety. Obviously, he knows the position very well. He was a stud at that position. Sean Brown was also one of our better linebackers, which again just reinforces the type of athlete that he is. But I wouldn't be surprised if you see Sean Brown bump back to safety and then you take a kid like Sterling Dixon from Alabama and you run with that. So this is something to keep an eye on, obviously. And, the way that official visits and recruiting this time of year goes, everything is extremely fluid. But I have on good authority as of now that Sterling Dixon will visit NC State coming up on this weekend. Got to make that one happen. All right. Seeing that it is only me, and I know y'all are probably tired of hearing me by now, I'll go ahead and turn this into a little bit of a Q&A here through the comments. Carla Jenkins, NCSU does need a defensive presence and a rim protector. So yes, that speaks to the importance of Ben Middlebrooks and Brandon Huntley Hatfield, who went down tonight due to injury. He did come back later on, but you kind of tell he was not playing at 100%. I think we also talked about Ishmael Diouf on Tuesday, and although he only played but a couple minutes in this game, the front court for NC State, and I told you that they would probably be the biggest of importance in this game. I was wrong because it ended up being the guard play in the very end, but NC State's defensive presence on the inside and the rim protection aspect, it was lacking tonight. There were several times we got back cut, gave up a lot of easy buckets at the rim, couple easy dunks. The depth of our front court is only so thick, and by thick I mean it's extremely thin, being that you only have Brandon Huntley-Hatfield and Ben Middlebrooks. And if you lose one or you lose the other, like for example, last week Middlebrooks was out with illness, just getting destroyed in the paint. And so it's always going to be an all hands on deck situation. But those two, and counting Diouf as three, massive. You have to have them in the game. I know Dontrez Styles plays the 4, and he's an undersized 4, but he's been exploited a lot on the defensive side. And that undersized really comes back to bite you in the you-know-what over the course of the entire season. But, yeah, it's going to be a struggle for the rest of the year, and I think that's why we always speak about why the guard play has to be super consistent. They have to do a lot of the weight pulling, because if they're not, literally the entire world rests on the shoulders of your front court. But, I mean, until it gets any better or probably the same for the rest of the season, kind of is what it is. Let's see what else we got through here. Do you think Mike James will come back, or is he going to sit the season out? This is far and away the biggest question surrounding NC State basketball right now. So obviously Mike James was the Louisville transfer that joined us this past offseason, was supposed to be one of the most integral parts of us, probably more offensively than defensively. Certainly has felt his absence, felt his aptitude for three-point shooting. The knee scope that went underway before the season began, and every time that Coach Keats gave an update, it was like, well, he's 4 weeks away. Well, he's about a month away. Well, we're going to look to see him maybe, early December, mid-December. We'll see what we got. And then every time that next update came, just pushing it further and further and further. And now we're early January, soon to be in mid-January. Still don't know. So on that front, I think it's a very day-by-day thing. I don't quite know what the further plans will be for Mike James if you just kind of call it a season, being that you've already missed, nearly half of the season at this point. In my opinion, if you can get him back in any capacity, we need him now. We need him on the floor. We need his shooting ability. And even if it's in limited capacity, maybe you can't run him out there for that often on defense because he's perhaps a little bit wobbly. I don't know. Maybe unpopular take, but if you can get him at like 90% health, I think it's worth the risk. You don't want to risk his future by further injury, but if he is cleared and he's able to play, we need kids like him. We need a shooter and a body. He's 6'6" and a guard. You have to have a guy like that in the lineup. So until further notice, I guess we continue to hold our breath. It's a shame that I don't have a better update than that one, but it's been kept very hush-hush, as it kind of always has been with any players out of the lineup on a Kevin Keats coach team. So we'll continue to wait and see. I think we can definitely use him if we can get him back in any capacity. We're going to have to see how that shakes out. Next one here comes from Wolfpack. We can definitely beat the Dirty Foot Club. I'd like to see us spread the floor with Diouf and pass in the lineup. Sit Brandon Huntley-Hatfield and O'Connell. So this is an interesting train of thought, and it speaks to what I was kind of hinting at earlier in this episode. I do believe that Breon Pass earned minutes, and he's been doing that so far up to this point, but really earned them after what I saw tonight. Measurable impact late in that second half, and it was an impact that you weren't exactly getting from Michael O'Connell. Michael O'Connell's really been scuffling so far this year. I will maintain that I think the best version of NC State is when Michael O'Connell is able to contribute at a high level. I think he's a better, pure point guard, pure passer than Breon is, but Breon's lighting it up from three. I think he's still shooting over 50% from three-point land. You got to find a way to utilize that. And if Michael cannot score consistently and he's not playing the world's best defense, Kenton said this weeks ago, how much worse could Breon really get if you're switching minutes for those two? I think that is an answer that's kind of lying in the weeds there. I would love to see Breon get an increase in minutes. Here we go. From Josh, was McNeil not spoken in the same zip code as Powell, who starts for UNC Chapel Hill? Excellent point. And I think a lot of folks have already pointed this out over the course of the season. I too am shocked how little Paul McNeil has played. And we've heard that a lot of it is defensively related. He just can't quite, you're still catching up to the collegiate speed of a game, being that he is still a freshman. And sometimes it's difficult to expect the world of a freshman, but we're not really expecting the world of a freshman. This team is extremely lackluster in three-point shooting, and that is supposed to be a massive strength of Paul McNeil's. Maybe one outweighs the other, and I would tend to believe that, seeing that we're still not seeing him constantly in the lineup. But yeah, it's kind of in the same note as Breon Pass. If you can get something from him offensively, it's worth the risk, in my opinion, because how much worse could it already be? I mean, you were 8-6 entering this game, scuffling with games that you should win. It's kind of the same old song and dance. You have to take chances. You have to get creative because you have nothing to lose at this point. I mean, as it stands right now, the season never ends in January, but if it does, you're outside of the dance. You're not making it. You have to do whatever it takes to find ways to turn L's into W's. Perhaps Paul McNeil's shooting ability is a smaller way to do that, but you got to get creative. There's no reason to play scared or coach scared or do anything scared at this point in time, because you have no further time to do that. You're in the middle of ACC play. Your arch rivals are coming up as soon as this Saturday. Whatever it takes, you have got to find a way to figure it out. Aiden Reed, Burton was insane his freshman year, and so is Ian Jackson. So Marcus Burton for Notre Dame, I said this on Tuesday's show, that's an NBA talent. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he actually tested the NBA draft waters this past offseason. He was the ACC Freshman of the Year last year. I thought Keats did an excellent job of scheming up defense for him. I think Burton only finished with 15 points. He was 5 of 15 shooting, 2 of 4 from 3. Relatively speaking, that's a great job defensively. You didn't allow him to completely, end the game, make it out of reach, kind of like Trey Johnson did way back a couple weeks ago for Texas. I lost my train of thought. Jaden Taylor. Jaden Taylor did a phenomenal job of guarding Burton there late in that game. Didn't give him any open looks. And, that's a big reason we're able to, crawl back from 10, take the lead, and ultimately hang on to the win. So Marcus Burton he's a great talent. And I think you're going to see him take over many games in ACC play this year. I know for a fact just this last weekend when Notre Dame was at Chapel Hill, Burton came off of the bench and gave them 23. So he's more than a capable scorer. We were able to hold him to 15 tonight, and I thought that was a very well job done. Job well done. My fault. From Chris, if we miss the tournament again this year, how long is Keats' leash? 1 year, 2 years, 3 years? So as I understand it, after winning the ACC championship this past season, making it to the Final Four, that triggered a 2-year extension for Kevin Keats. I believe that extends him out to, I think it was like 2027, if I'm doing the math correctly in my head here. Here's the deal. I think this is kind of falling in the same vein as Doran. Actually, not quite. I'll take that back, because Coach Keats, as we all know, was about 4 minutes and 30 some odd seconds from being fired if we lost to Louisville in the first game of the ACC championship. We were right on the brink. Whether you talk about revisionist history or not, if that game went south, Coach Keats was out of here. So if you miss the tournament this year after winning the ACC championship and going to the Final Four, does Keats get retained? I believe the answer is yes. And however you want to feel about that, I would sympathize with folks that kind of moan and groan about that. It is what it is. I like Coach Keats. I think he's a great man, and we'll always remember very fondly what he has done for our university. But there's consistent flaws that you're seeing in his teams year after year after year. It's not being able to find a rotation when you're mid to late January. Can't have it. Not being able to establish, consistent shooters, consistent scorers, constantly getting back cut on the defensive end. I think he presses way too much. But if you fall back into more of a half-court type defense like you did in the tournament run this past year, a lot of people bring that up, but I don't think it's for nothing. I think this team, they get run out of shape, not out of shape, but they get run into the ground, so to speak, by pressing and pressing and pressing, and then you have to cycle in players, and it messes up all your rotations. It's a consistent flaw that we're not seeing cleaned up. And so, just a laundry list of other things going on, but to answer your question, if we miss the tournament, I expect Keats to be retained. Kent is actually calling me right now. I expect Keats to be retained For how long is the question, though? Because if you miss it this year and he comes back next year and misses it again, will that be the end of the leash? I think there's probably going to be some tough conversations if that is the case, but I don't think anyone has the answer for that right now, because two things are true. One, he was going to be fired if he did not win the ACC championship. But two, he deserves to be here right now. What he did was win the ACC championship, and you went to the Final Four. Whether we believe it or not, because it still does not feel real, it happened. And because it happened, he deserves to be here. He deserves the extension. And until further notice, he is our coach, whether we like it or not. So we're going to have to see how much longer, I guess the mediocrity will continue. It's tough to stomach. I will not squabble with you there. I mean, it's not a good brand of basketball. The games are not fun to watch. A lot of times they're one way or the other, being that you should have won, like a Virginia game, you're up 12 or up 14, you lose that one, or even against the lower teams in non-conference, you're, a 10-point win over Coppin State, which is one of the worst teams in college basketball. It's just not an exciting brand of college basketball. And it's tough for a school that has our history. And I mean, yeah, I'll get off my soapbox here, but you get what I'm saying here. He deserves to be here now. We'll reassess probably in a year, 2 years. We'll see what we got later on down the road. Well, folks, I think that's all we got. Somehow I was able to squeeze 31 minutes out of this flying solo. Thank you all so much for joining me here post-game Wednesday evening. NC State basketball picks up a 1-point win over the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Another nail-biter, but hey, a win's a win. This team needed to pick up a win, and they found a way to get it done. More for you on Thursday and Friday. Again, thank you all so much for joining me here Wednesday evening. We'll see y'all tomorrow, and until then, go Pack.